Hello and welcome to our research proposal for a project examining electronic nicotine delivery systems. First, we will begin with what exactly electronic nicotine delivery systems are. These devices are more commonly known as vapes or e-cigarettes, and they are handheld devices that produce an aerosolized mixture from a solution typically containing concentrated nicotine, flavoring chemicals, and propylene glycol or other solvents that can be inhaled by the user. This leads us to the potential threat that electronic nicotine delivery systems, or ENDS, can pose to public health. Electronic nicotine delivery system use has doubled among middle and high school students since 2013, and in turn, public health legislation has struggled to keep up with how fast this industry is growing. For example, an estimated 250 e-cigarette brands have become available in the United States alone, which is an astounding number. Basically, data related to e-cigarette attitudes will guide public health officials, healthcare providers, and educators to develop more detailed health messages and prevention efforts. This leads us to why researching electronic nicotine delivery systems is important. One issue we found in the research was that research regarding the long-term health effects of using these products is largely unknown. Other studies have shown that the potential to cause long-term health problems is there. For example, use likely increases lung inflammation markers and cardiovascular health. Other issues that were found were increased heart rate in those who use e-cigarettes with nicotine versus e-cigarettes without nicotine, and other neurochemical effects and behavioral changes, especially in the developing brains of adolescents. Continuing with our discussion of why researching ENDS is important, general assessments of motivations behind what is causing people to take up vaping or using electronic nicotine delivery systems would be important at aiming legislation to potentially regulate these products. Another thing that might help would a better understanding of the advertising effects on users. For example, what is being used in advertising to get people to feel like they need to use these products. Another thing that would be beneficial is a better understanding of the motivations of users who may have started at a young age and then continued through adulthood. This would be interesting to look at because of the product's general nature of being referred to as a cessation product for other tobacco products. Next, we can move on to the area of concern for our proposal, which is vaping or electronic nicotine delivery system use amongst young adults. It is generally agreed upon that these products were introduced in 2007, but that rates have been increasing rapidly. For example, from 4.5% in 2011 to 27.4% in 2014 amongst young adults. Approximately 1.3 million more high school students were vaping this year compared to last year as well. Some misperceptions regarding use of electronic nicotine delivery systems are that, for example, 19.505% of students believe smoke from e-cigarettes is water, 23.03% believed e-cigarettes aren't a tobacco product, 40% considered e-cigarettes to be for cessation specifically, and 43% felt they were safer than cigarettes. This leads to a basic discussion of what is fueling our proposal. A lack of research and awareness allows for tobacco companies to use harmful chemicals without the public's knowledge. Research does exist highlighting isolated incidents of negative health effects, some of them being serious health problems, but long-term health effects are yet to be studied. We do need proper research to understand these effects and to educate the public on how to avoid having any kind of negative or extreme health effects that may occur from using electronic nicotine delivery systems. All of the information presented thus far leads to our research question. What are the long-term health effects of vaping? The problem that we ran across is that there is a general lack of research on the long-term health effects of using electronic nicotine delivery systems. To look further into this issue, we designed a study to be a longitudinal cohort study. This would basically examine two different groups of individuals, one group who is exposed to our factor and one group who is not. And in this case, that would be electronic nicotine delivery system use. And we would look at different outcomes, health outcomes for these two groups by assessing biometric differences between the two groups. Next, we can move into the design of our study. Again, this is going to be a longitudinal cohort study. We would be following college students for 20 years. Our inclusion criteria would be 50 students aged 18 or greater attending Benedictine University who identify as e-cigarette or electronic nicotine delivery system users only. Our control group would also consist of 50 students from the same university, but these would be limited to students who have never had a history of using any kind of tobacco product, not limited to electronic nicotine delivery systems, but also to include things such as cigarettes or chewing tobacco. Our exclusion criteria would be individuals under 18, individuals who use traditional tobacco, and we would also exclude participants who began using nicotine during the course of the study, or any individuals who might already have pre-established major health conditions. Next, we move on to our sampling and recruitment methods. The sampling method we have chosen to use is respondent-driven sampling. This would consist of 10 seeds who would be students. These students would be given 5 coupons to distribute to their peers to participate in the study. We would repeat the sampling 3 times every 2 years until we met our goal of getting 50 individuals in both groups in the cohort study. In terms of recruitment and retention, other studies have found that monetary incentives increase participation in studies such as ours. So we have chosen to give incentives such as gift cards, cash, gas cards, and bookstore credits to anybody who meets the requirements and participates in the study. Another issue we have come up with is, since the study lasts for so long, mail and email reminders as well as holiday and birthday greetings could be used to incentivize staying in the study. Next, we can move on to our collection methods that we will be using in this study. Our baseline session will consist of a survey that will assess participants' current health status and e-cigarette and other tobacco product usage. The surveys will also consist of different questions about demographic information and other quantitative and qualitative data that will be discussed in further detail later. In terms of collecting biometric data, we plan on using health records to be able to look into different measures such as lung function, blood pressure, resting heart rate, as well as looking into any new diagnoses that may come up, such as cancer, hypertension, heart disease, or lung disorders. On top of this, we also plan on recollecting data using the same survey method as before that may potentially unearth any confounders such as changes in socioeconomic status, education level, or marital status. Delving further into our collection methods, we can discuss more in depth how our survey will be conducted. This survey will be in the form of an online questionnaire. It will assess current lifestyle patterns for participants such as family situation, employment situation, and social networks. It will also assess beliefs regarding participants' current health status, and we plan on using this to look at the impact of behaviors on overall health. That being said, we also want to look into assessing behaviors and motivations related to e-cigarette use, such as certain stressors or increased periods of use throughout the day. These surveys will be completed at the beginning of the study and also at follow-up sessions. This is to assess any possible changes in beliefs or patterns that may take place for the participants' electronic nicotine delivery system use. Next, we have an example of what a sample draft of our survey might look like. This is going to contain questions that go over some of the issues brought up on the slide before, such as asking about current family situation, current employment situation, and information about people's social networks, maybe hobbies or academic performance, things of that nature. We also include questions of current health benefits and motivations, such as perceptions of participants' overall health status and perceptions of how their use of electronic nicotine delivery systems might impact their individual health.
Continuing the survey, we are assessing some of the motivations and behaviors related to using e-cigarettes, asking questions about reasons why users began vaping, why they continue vaping, flavorings and triggers, as well as consumer knowledge are all meant to help us gain a better understanding of use to better target future legislation and further studies. Looking at descriptive statistics, we will be collecting data regarding participants' biometrics, which includes measurements such as blood pressure, heart rate, respiratory function, and we will also be gathering data regarding employment, living situations, social networks, and other similar information. This data will be presented as frequency distributions. Analyzing our quantitative data, we will be using the Pearson product moment correlation, which is a method of representing the strength of a correlation between two variables according to Salazar, Crosby, and DiClemente. In this case, we want to look at how much of a relationship or correlation there is between the duration of use and the biometric data. We are submitting our study for an expedited review request. According to Salazar, research which meets at least one of 7 categories falls into this IRB review category. And we identified 3 categories which we believe apply to our study. Data collection through non-invasive means. This would be the collection of our biometric data, which will be collected through the use of sensor-based instruments or other non-invasive methods. Research involving materials. We will be collecting information on participants from visits with their primary care provider. For example, if a new diagnosis is obtained which may be relevant to our study, it could exclude the participant from further involvement. For example, if they got a new cancer diagnosis, they may be excluded. Research on individual or group characteristics or behaviors. So in this case, surveys in which we are researching perceptions and motivations. For our qualitative data, we will be using surveys to collect the motivations and perceptions of users, and these will also be used to collect demographic information. Our quantitative data, we are going to use sensor-based instruments to collect biometrics. Regarding the safeguards for our study, confidentiality is one of the biggest concerns, and we will be assigning participants randomly assigned anonymous IDs for data collection. Information associated with the assigning of participants to IDs will be kept in a separate location from IDs associated with the collected data. Security measures will involve all data stored on encrypted servers and in dual locked rooms. Lastly, we have a copy of our informed consent document, briefly describing the background information, confidentiality, contact information, and other relevant study information.